You're listening to the Meaningful Content Mixer. I'm Bonnie, a content professional focused on pre-sales and product marketing.
And I'm Sara, a content professional focused on post-sale knowledge management. Together, we like to explore what it takes to create meaningful content that is purposeful, demand-driven, and contextually relevant.
We are sharing strategies, tactics, and stories that help content professionals across disciplines create more meaningful content that drives successful outcomes for their customers.
Let's get started.
All right, we probably should just start by introducing who we are and why we're doing this.
Yeah, I think we should. I'm Sara.
And I'm Bonnie.
And I've been a content professional as an umbrella term for 14-ish years. I don't always do the math on that one, but my career has spanned technical writing, knowledge management, really focused on that knowledge management to enable customer support and customer success to do their jobs effectively, and mostly focused on software companies.
I'm product marketing, and so I focus a lot on pre-sales right now, but throughout my career, it's been all over the place, from focusing on post-sale with tech writing to I was actually part of like the development cycle when I was documenting for a manufacturing company on how to build these, engines and torque converters and things like that. To now just being, more focused on creating memorable experiences on a marketing side of things. So it's been interesting to see, going from the technical to more creative, maybe I would say. But at the same time, I think even the distinctions that I'm talking about with the different roles and the different, from technical to creative, it's always seemed like the same thing, right? It's content, and it's how can you make information make sense to people? And that's what I really love about what I do, even if it's the role has changed and the title has changed. At the end of the day, I am trying to make sense of things for people and make the world make sense, I guess.
Yes, I love that. And I like that it's worth calling out the sort of distinction between pre-sales and post-sales, because it matters and it doesn't. I think it matters in terms of it influences sort of triggers and workflows and organizations of when and how content is created. And I love that through our collaboration, we know that you are currently more focused on that pre-sales stage of the life cycle, and I'm more on the post-sales enabling customer support and success functions. But the lines have blurred. You create pre-sales, product marketing content that gets marketed to current customers often.
Yes.
And I'm often involved in initiatives that fully span the customer life cycle. Just yesterday I was creating material that was meant for the sales team to hand out to prospects. So it really, the lines blurred in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. And it's really important, even, in my role right now, working closely with customer marketing and content marketing and making sure that everything is telling the same story.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So we talked about now a little bit. Let's go back. Can you tell me a bit about how you got into the career that you're in?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I think back to it, I think I've always had an interest in explaining or making sense of information. That's how I'll say it. Making sense of information in a way that helps other people understand. And I think part of it was, just growing up, my mother's from the Philippines, and English was one of her, not her second, but probably her third or fourth language. And there was a lot of my childhood growing up was needing to help translate or help explain things to her. And I have one memory of, I called somebody a dork, and my mom had no idea what that meant. She's like, "What is a dork?" I'm like, "How do I explain this? How can I make sense of this?" And of course, there were many more examples. And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to, even if you don't have someone in your life who's ESL, but you have a grandparent or an older parent who doesn't know how to, connect to the internet or print something or use Snapchat, right? So that was just something that I not only did, but I actually enjoyed doing. And so in college, I think I had no idea what I wanted to major in. And so I switched to a few different degrees. And then it was my dad who actually found tech writing as a major. And I had no idea that there was this job where you could dig into the fun technical stuff, the fun techie stuff, but then have the role of being able to write about it. And I thought that was so fun. And so for me, that kind of led into, working for a software company and learning all about the different forms of all the different types of communication that you can do beyond technical communication. And it was a lot of fun. And that background in tech comm really created a solid foundation for that. But again, it's beyond just the tech writing role, right? It applies to many different roles because content is not just defined by a role or a job or a position.
Yeah, or a certain output, which it often
Yeah.
is associated with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What about you?
I love your story because I can relate to it in a few ways. I can remember back actually in high school, I got in trouble in math class one year. It was a new teacher, and she thought I was disruptive because I asked too many questions. And it was because, well, some things don't change. I still find math really difficult to understand, hence why I was asking so many questions. But the teacher called my mom and asked her to ask me to stop asking so many questions.
My gosh.
And I really remember my mom fiercely defended me and said, well, of course she should be asking questions. She's in school to learn. And I was asking questions to try and understand the material. Anyway, that led my mom to encourage me to join a summer journalism class that following summer, just because she noticed that I like to ask a lot of questions to try and understand things. And even though I didn't end up pursuing journalism, I also in college discovered technical writing, and it was a new concept to me, but it really fit this idea of me having this interest in asking the right questions to uncover the right information that we need to help people. I love the helpfulness of technical communication. And then similar to what you said, how that same concept, that foundation really spans now, as the internet and subscription economy and SaaS has evolved as common business models. The need for helpful content, it appears basically everywhere from a business perspective. And then at the beginning of my career, I was really, I think, fortunate enough. My first tech writing job at a software company was with a team that was embedded with the support team. We really were like part of the support team. And so when I think of my foundation, it is in technical writing. And from day one, it's been really being connected to the customer experience and how because no one knows that more than customer support, like how customers and so that's really carried me through my career and the importance of that.
Yeah. And I like what you say, because I like your example, working closely with support, because when I first started working for a software company, I was embedded in the engineering team. Mm-hmm. And so I was working right next with engineers in sprints, making sure that everything was documented, appropriately. And at the same time, it's funny because I just remember feeling like back then I was the customer advocate. Mm-hmm. The technical writing team, we were the customer advocates because we were writing the documentation that they were reading. And it's funny because there was this passion there for the customer and the customer experience from that area, that side. There's the passion in support. There's the passion in marketing. It's across the board. And I think that really highlights how important it is for us to make sense of things to our customers. And so that translates back to our co-op and our podcast, because we are also using this platform to help other content professionals. Exactly. Why don't you give the breakdown of what this co-op is?
Yeah, well,
putting it on you.
Well, I think, we like the name Meaningful Content, because when you look at the role of content across organizations, across customer life cycles, I mean, content and product experience are really becoming one and the same in many ways, whereas maybe it used to be more distinct. And there's so many roles and functions that are involved with content creation. And I'd like for us to see what sort of commonalities we can focus on when it comes to the content itself. What's the formula that makes that content be useful and meaningful to the customer? And I think we can really explore this from a cross-functional perspective by focusing on the content and, of course, the people and the tactics and the methods that create the content, and really see what we can learn from each other, how we can help each other.
Yeah, I like that. So we've got a podcast, we have a blog. Mm-hmm. What are some ways that people can contact us, can reach out, can learn with us, and share in this experience?
Yeah, well, I'm really hoping that you and I, as we collaborate, will sort of attract others who want to be part of the conversation. So in some ways, I think we'll plan to invite some guests, some folks we've worked with, hopefully some folks we haven't had a chance to work with, to come on and talk about meaningful content and topics that are going to be useful to content professionals, across disciplines, and create some resources, references that folks can use that are, collaborations or insights from experts who really know what they're doing and have a lot of experience that we can share with others.
Yeah, I hope that people are able to just take away things that they can apply to their own work and, look at things from a different perspective. Everything is connected in some way. And so finding those connections through content, I think will be a lot of fun.
Yes, I love that. And then something I know I want to do, which I'm really inspired by you to want to do this more, which is really focus on the story and the narrative behind how content gets created. I think that's a really interesting way to look at it. It's a way to broaden our perspective to the point you just made, and it's a different approach. We want to talk about tactics and strategies and methodologies, but I think telling the story of how that actually comes to life from the perspective of the people who do it, or the content itself, the story of how content enables folks to be successful or experience something new. I'd love to, explore ways to really highlight that. And we're kind of an open book at this point. We're just getting started, and we're gonna kind of see where this goes. One of the ways that we like to talk about meaningful content, we say that it is purposeful, demand-driven, and contextually relevant. And demand-driven really applies in this case. We want the content that we create for our audience to be demand-driven. So we'd love to hear from folks to see how we can help them.
Well, I'm so excited to be doing this project, and I hope people are excited to join in and participate with us.
Yep. Okay, until the next one.